It was just another early morning at the training facility. Cold tiles, strict routines, and the sound of boots echoing through long hallways. The new recruits had just arrived, lined up in stiff silence, each one waiting for their first assignment. Among them stood a young woman, calm but unreadable, her black hair pulled back, eyes steady and focused. Most eyes passed over her, dismissing her as just another face in the crowd. But something about her felt different, not loud, not obvious, just different. Sergeant Mason had seen all kinds of recruits over the years, tough ones, quiet ones, even ones who cracked under pressure. When he stopped in front of her, clipboard in hand, he barely glanced up. "You take this mop. And start with the East Wing," he said, without emotion, already moving to the next name. She didn't speak, just nodded once and took the mop. But then she turned to go. And that's when he saw it. Coiled on her forearm, just beneath the sleeve of her uniform, was a sharp, black viper tattoo. Not just any tattoo. This one meant something. To most, it would just be ink. But to Mason, it triggered something immediate. He froze, his eyes locked on the snake's piercing eyes, its fangs curled in a silent warning. A symbol he hadn't seen in years, symbol tied to a story that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. The hallway went quiet around him. He didn't speak, didn't move. The mop slipped slightly in her grip, and she paused, glancing back at him with the faintest hint of a knowing look. Ali. Like she was waiting for him to remember. Who was she really? Ali? And why was that tattoo showing up here, in this place, at this time? He cleared his throat, but the words didn't come. Suddenly, simple morning task had turned into something much bigger than either of them could have expected. And this was just the beginning. Sergeant Des. Mason hadn't felt this kind of chill in years, not from the cold hallways or early morning air, but from memory. That tattoo, the Viper, wasn't just some rebellious ink. It belonged to a unit that officially didn't exist anymore. An elite, highly classified group from a long-buried mission overseas. Mason had only heard whispers about them back then. A few rumors, a couple of reports that were suddenly redacted, and then silence. No names. No records. Just one symbol, that Viper. He watched the girl disappear around the corner, mop in hand, like nothing had happened. But Mason couldn't shake it. Who had let her in? Recruits went through full checks, background, history, family ties. If she was connected to them, how did she even get through the door? Back in his office, he pulled her file from the stack. Name, Eva Marlowe. Age 23. Background, quiet, clean. No red flags, no known relatives. Just a vague note. Transferred from internal clearance, but transferred by who? The paper trail ended abruptly, almost like someone didn't want her past to be found. Meanwhile, in the janitor's closet, at the end of the hall, Eva rolled up her sleeve fully, staring at the snake winding down her arm. Her fingers traced it slowly, as if remembering something, or someone. The mop rested against the wall. She wasn't here to clean floors. She had a reason, a mission, and she knew Mason had recognized the mark. That was the point she had expected this moment. The hesitation, the doubt, the fear in his eyes. What she didn't know yet was whether he would try to stop her or help her. One thing was clear. This wasn't a mistake. She was here for a reason. And soon, everyone in that building would know why. Mason couldn't concentrate for the rest of the morning. Every time he tried to return to his routine, his thoughts pulled him back to that tattoo and the calm, quiet look in Ava's eyes. It wasn't fear or even surprise, it was control. Like she knew exactly what she was doing and exactly where she was. That unsettled him more than anything. Recruits weren't supposed to carry themselves like that, especially not fresh ones. He found himself rewatching the hallway security footage in his office. Frame by frame, he studied her posture, her eyes, the way she noticed the camera and subtly shifted her arm to show the tattoo. It was deliberate, a message, but to who? Elsewhere, Eva walked through the empty wing of the facility, mop in hand but barely using it. Her eyes scanned the corners, cameras, floor panels. She seemed to know where everything was, as if she had been here before. She paused outside a locked door marked Staff Only. Glancing down both sides of the hallway, she slid something. From her pocket, a thin black card. She held it up to the panel, a faint beep. Red light. Denied, she didn't try again. Just slid the card back and kept walking. Not yet. Timing mattered. Back in the mess hall, a different kind of tension was rising. Two of the other recruits, Jacob and Torres, had been watching Eva since morning. Jacob leaned over, voice low. "Did you see that thing on her arm? It's not a normal tattoo. My brother's in Intel. He said that symbol's linked to Black Ops. Stuff no one talks about." Torres shrugged but kept watching. "She doesn't act like the rest of us. I saw her disarm a drill instructor in training without being told to, like she already knew how to do it." Rumors spread fast in places like this, but no one knew how close they were to the truth. Eva wasn't just here to train. She was here to uncover something buried. And whatever it was, Mason was starting to realize he might be part of it, whether he wanted to be or not. By the third day, the tension in the facility was thick enough to feel in the air. Everyone had started noticing, even not just for her silence or her odd confidence, but for the way things began to shift around her. Instructors were getting tighter with their orders. Drills became harsher, and conversations got quieter whenever she walked by. Mason knew he couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was building, and if he didn't act, might all spiral out of control. Late that evening, Mason stayed behind after lights out. He slipped through the empty corridors and stopped outside the file room. The place was locked as usual, but he still had clearance from when he handled operations. Inside, he searched for anything tied to Eva Marlowe. Nothing, just an empty folder with her name and a blank ID number. But behind that, buried under old personnel files, he found a sealed envelope with a black viper stamped in wax. He didn't open it, not yet. Just held it in his hand, heart racing. If this symbol was back, it meant someone higher up had pulled strings to bring her here. Not just as a recruit, but for something else. Something that was never supposed to come back to the surface. At the same time, Eva was in the lower wing, one that most recruits never even knew existed. She had followed a coded pattern, hidden in the hallway lights, guiding her to a hatch behind a storage shelf. It took strength to lift it, but she managed. Below, a narrow stairwell led into darkness. Back in the barracks, Jacob couldn't sleep. He tossed in his bunk, eyes on the ceiling, still thinking about that moment during combat training when Eva had moved like a soldier, not a trainee. Perfect form. No hesitation. Not just skill, experience. Torres sat up too. "What if she's not one of us?" "Ha," he asked quietly. Jacob didn't answer. Down in the dark, Eva reached the bottom of the stairwell. The air was different here, still, heavy. She stood in front of a metal door with a keypad. This was at the place they'd hidden everything, and now she was going to open it. Eva stood still in front of the keypad, her fingers hovering over the numbers. She wasn't guessing, she already knew the code. Each button press was slow and deliberate, like she was replaying old instructions buried deep in memory. When the final digit clicked, the door hissed softly and slid open. A narrow hallway stretched ahead, lined with old tech, dusty filing cabinets, and faded security monitors still flickering with static. It was a forgotten part of the base, untouched, sealed off and invisible to most of the current staff. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. This was where it had all started. Years ago, before her name had ever been changed. Before the mission that went dark. Before they erased everything. Meanwhile, Mason sat alone in his office, the sealed envelope still in his hand. Against every regulation he'd ever followed, he broke the wax. Inside was a single photo, grainy, black and white. A group of 6 operatives standing in front of a military chopper. All of their faces were blurred out, except one, Eva. She wasn't a new recruit. She was a ghost from a Black Ops team that had vanished over 5 years ago. A team that was presumed dead, or worse, buried by command to hide what had gone wrong. He turned the photo over. There were 4 words written in red ink. "She's not the threat." That hit him like a brick. Back underground, Eva reached a terminal. She inserted the black data card from her pocket, and old system lights blinked to life as files loaded. Her eyes scanned the screen names, coordinates, recorded transmissions. Then suddenly, ... a second file popped up, one she didn't open. It opened itself, a live feed from inside the facility. Someone else was watching her. Not just the hallway cameras. Not just Mason. Someone higher. And they had access to everything. Her location, the sealed wing. The data she was trying to recover. She backed away from the screen, heart pounding. This wasn't just about uncovering secrets. Anymore, someone had been expecting her, and they were already 1 step ahead. Eva froze, staring at the live feed flickering on the dusty screen. It wasn't just showing her, it was tracking her movements. Through every hallway she'd passed, someone had eyes on her long before she reached the lower wing. She quickly pulled the card from the terminal, but it was too late. The lights in the hallway outside flickered once, then went